Are you ready to see a world in which the hottest actress in all of Hollywood exists only in a computer? Then I would recommend either watching the 2002 movie Simone or the 2013 movie The Congress. Because this ain't happening. Hey folks, so I made a short a little bit ago talking about the AI actress, and I am only going to put that in massive bleeding sarcasm quotes, Tilly Norwood. This has made the rounds and has been reported on in a number of places, and I am going to reiterate a point that I made in that short and then also expand further, because I mentioned at the tail end of that short, this is never going to work, even if we strip aside so many inherent problems with AI. Just on the straight logistics, this will never work. And enough people express curiosity, and I have enough thoughts on it that let's talk about it. To reiterate what I said in that short, the most telling thing about all this to me is that, at least at my time of speaking, all of the hype and all of the claims of interest from agents and studios is coming from the people who are trying to pitch this thing. Tilly Norwood is the creation of Particle 6 Productions, fronted by one Eline van der Velden, who has a very odd, eclectic background. Her resume's real strange, but she is the face of this company. And she's pretty much the source for any and every quote saying, oh, there's so many agents interested. Oh, there's all these studios interested. We're going to turn her into the next Scarlett Johansson. I'm sure you want to. The comparison I made there is well, it's snake oil. You have someone who has a product to sell who is talking to news outlets and going, oh, we have so much interest. So many people are talking about buying our hot new thing. If that was actually true, you wouldn't need to be pitching it in the press. You'd just be closing these deals with agents, with studios. But you're not. You're instead debuting this thing and putting these things up on Instagram and then talking to as many outlets as you can, telling them how excited everybody is for the thing that you've made. But none of the people saying that are anybody who would potentially actually make use of this thing. Because don't get me wrong on this. She is pitching this not as like a toy or a tool or something for the average creator of AI-generated video slop on YouTube to use. No, she wants this thing in movies, and that is flatly never going to happen. Now, there is a ton of inherent issues with AI. I've talked about them repeatedly, and I'm going to reiterate them now, and then we're going to set them aside. Not because they ever should be discounted. They are disqualifying on their own. But I want to talk about why this is a terrible idea and it falls apart on its face. Its core premise is inherently and innately flawed, and it cannot possibly work. So, the inherent things that you must always remember when dealing with generative AI of this nature that we are going to set aside, but I'm going to remind you, it is built on theft. It is built on the consolidation and the scraping of massive amounts of data and potentially people's likenesses. There is at least one person on Instagram who has reason to believe that her specific likeness was maybe not the sole thing that went into Tilly, but appears to have at least potentially have been a major factor. There is the fact that no matter what fresh amalgamation you put them into, this has been trained on stolen data from people that you did not get permission to use their likenesses to train this thing. So there's massive legal hurdles. It's built on theft. It is environmentally destructive because of the server farms that have to be built in order for these things to even function at all, which are a massive drain of energy, of water, and they are huge amounts of noise pollution. There are health problems that are coming about from people who are stuck living next to where these things get built. None of this should ever be forgotten, but it's also what we're not going to be dealing with today. All of that is a given. It's all a given when dealing with this kind of generative AI. And again, that alone should mean we shouldn't be using it. But people are going to try anyway. So let's talk about why this is a terrible freaking idea. First of all, there is how poorly this is going to go over with the Hollywood establishment. Now, I'm sure the tech bros out there are like, well, it's supposed to. It's disruptive. Okay, here's the thing, though. The pitch right now is for Tilly Norwood to be an actress integrated into film projects. Film projects, not AI movie projects. Because you could just use her in just a completely AI-generated movie. They're not pitching that. I think because they know they can't possibly sell it. They're hoping that maybe they can sell it because if you just have an actress, well then you don't have to use your technology for the entire thing. You can cut around it, it's little bits, it's a shot here, it's a shot there, it's a reaction, it's this. It's a much more limited use, and they're hoping that that is a baby step that they can use to really wedge in there. Here's the first problem. The Actors Guild, SAG, has already put out their statement about this thing, flatly saying this is not an actress and it's insulting for you to even call it that. Which, yeah, accurate. That's why the sarcasm quotes. But in any case, there is a very distinct possibility that any agent, studio, or director that tries to work with this thing is going to be effectively, if not literally, blacklisted by the entire actors union. And no matter how disruptive you are intending to be, right now, actors are a major part of the success of Hollywood. Their talent, their name, their recognition, their pull. Tilly Norwood is a novelty. She is not even as novel as the average Hollywood starlet. She is a tech novelty. And if you think you can sell a film on the basis of her and then a bunch of non-union actors, good freaking luck. Some actors have already been saying that if they find out that an agent or an agency signs this thing, that they would drop that agent instantly and they would encourage every other professional actor to do the same. This is a toxic product that is being peddled. Nobody in the industry wants it. And again, the tech bros will go, well, that just shows how good it is. They're scared of it. It'll put them out of a job. No, they're insulted by it. Are they scared of it? Not in the way that tech bros think. They're not scared of it in that they think it will literally be able to replace them. It won't. It can't. I'll talk more about some of the reasons why. But what they're afraid of is the damage that's going to be done as studios try to make this work. I mean, this is basically the problem with generative AI in artistic fields in the first place. Is it going to truly be able to replace the human ability to create unique art that is not just slop cobbled together by pre-existing assets? No, it won't and it can't. But until the bubble bursts, and it will eventually, but until it does, there's a lot of damage that can be done in the meantime. And SAG-AFTRA is in the position to be able to get ahead of a lot of that, or at least try to. That was a huge part of the actors' strike a couple years ago, was protections around this kind of stuff. Now, the protections that they were focused on at the time was to avoid actors' likenesses and their voices and their performances being used to create new performances that they themselves are not a part of without their consent or permission. Basically, what they were looking to head off at the pass was the notion of, well, for being in this movie, we own all the footage that we shot of you in this movie, and we're going to use that as training data for an AI, and then we can just use that AI recreation of you for new stuff. That was the kind of thing that they went out of their way to fight. It was a very clear yanking and co-opting of the likeness and abilities of existing actors. Now, Tilly Norwood is that as well, but it is kind of laundered a little bit because of the fact that it's pulled from multiple sources. So it's harder to say, oh, well, that's this person that you stole that look from. They may still have done that, but that might ultimately have to play out in court eventually. We will see. But let's talk straight logistics. Logistically, trying to make a movie with an AI actress would be a nightmare and absolutely not worth it. Let's talk about why. Here's the first thing that I think a lot of people don't quite get, and it's really important that you understand this. Tilly Norwood, despite being a computer creation, is not an equivalent to a CGI character. There's a couple of really key differences to this. A CGI created character, whether or not it is based off of things like motion capture or facial capture or whatever, but everything from Jar Jar Binks to Gollum to Davy Jones to Rocket Raccoon, amongst other things, they are created as fully rendered 3D models. Now, the final renderings and the fine details will not get put on until a polish at the very end, but when you are first figuring out what to do with them, it is a fully workable, effectively digital puppet. You can get it to do exactly what you want it to do, assuming you have the time to make it work. Rigging is a little bit of a tricky thing, but you have the time. You can move it to a different spot in the scene if you want to. You can manipulate it, fine-tune it after the fact. You can't do any of that with AI. AI, despite looking fully realistic, and many people probably imagining that it's a 3D asset, it's not. It is effectively a 2D image or a 2D video. As much depth as it looks like, you can't do what you can do with a 3D asset, such as like shift the camera around it or alter the lighting on it. Now, can you work camera moves and lighting changes and whatnot into AI generated video? Of course, but it has to be part of the prompt. You have to know in advance exactly how it is you want it to look, and for every single render, which you are going to have to consider to be a take, it is going to take hours or days to render, depending on how high fidelity and how realistic and convincing you want it to look and how much is going on inside the video. This stuff takes a while to render, and understand it has to render to a finished state. It's not like with a CGI character where you can do a whole bunch of work with a very basic, almost stiff freaking T-posed thing just to move it around, figure out where everything goes, and then you work on the renders later. AI video isn't like that. You don't get to, well, let's do a take and we'll do it, as at a lower kind of render to see how it looks, and then we'll do, the render that takes a lot longer once we know it works. That's not how it works, though. You have to get to the finished product every time, and the finished product is what it is, which means that if anything goes wrong, if any finger is too long, if the teeth blend together for a moment, which if you watch some of these videos, you will see that happen. Not necessarily with Tilly, they've been careful about that, but if you look really closely, or if your eyes are just kind of naturally pulled to mouths the way that mine are, you will notice lips not quite moving in the right way and teeth occasionally merging together real briefly. It's really important to notice that shots like this, which supposedly shows Tilly on a red carpet, that entire thing is AI generated. The characters in the background, the lighting, everything. All of it has to work and has to look right and has to look good. Because if any of it screws up, then the whole take is unusable, no matter how long you've waited for it to render. And understand, like on a film set, if you want a new take, depending on what you're doing, that takes anywhere from 30 seconds to 10 minutes. Now, if it's like a big complicated thing like an action scene, slightly different story. You might have to reset things and put props back in place, reset explosives that need to go off or whatever. That stuff takes longer. But your typical scene, your typical just two people talking scene, cut, take it again, 10 seconds. Like if the camera isn't moving, 10 seconds. The camera needs to go back to where it was, I don't know, maybe a minute to reset. You get a new take right away. You can do those small adjustments as a director. Like, okay, can you give that to me again, but just, a little more anger in this one? Or like, do you think you can well up a tear for this take, perhaps? You need to understand how much about a character, a performance, a movie overall gets discovered through the process of shooting. Only people who have bought into the myth of auteur filmmaking, the idea that the director's perfect vision is all that matters, would ever think that this would work. Film is a collaborative medium. You can't collaborate with a thing that doesn't think, that has no opinion, that can only just respond to the prompts you've given it. So if you get a take from this thing and you wait however many hours it takes to see how the take is, and you look at it and you go, okay, can we try it again? But can we get a little smirk from her, towards the end of the line? You have to do the entire render over again. You can't fine tune and precision tune it. You could try. You could effectively go in with Photoshop and try, but again, it's not a CGI asset. You can't puppet it like a CGI created character or creature. You'd have to go in frame by frame because, again, it's effectively a 2D image. So you have a thing that isn't physically there, that actors can't really respond to, that if you decide to change the lighting in a scene, but you've done a render of her in this take in the old version of the lighting, you have to do the entire render over again, waiting however many hours or days for the thing to finish in order to give you photorealistic. At a certain point, the fake is harder than just doing it for real. Now, if you've seen more than your share of AI-generated video, you might have noticed that clips tend to top out at about 10 seconds. Now, platforms like YouTube and TikTok have acclimated a lot of viewers to the jump cut. So if you're not looking for it, you might not notice. But if I show you something like this ad, which was clearly done at a lower level of technology and a lower fidelity than something like Tilly Norwood is, you start to notice that the jumps aren't even a place where it makes sense for a jump cut to appear.
High blood sugar, constant fatigue, blurry vision, and excessive thirst.
If you've ever seen an AI video that tries to be longer than 10 seconds, they have to stitch a couple of things together, meaning there's almost always a pause or a jump or something to indicate it, and they have to do something to cover for that. That's why in this AI recreation of the Sydney Sweeney Jeans ad that Particle 6 did, they have this glitch effect to cover the jump. They'll claim it's thematic or whatever because she's computer generated, but it's not. If they could make it look perfectly smooth, they would. And if you try and tell me, oh, just wait, the technology will get better and they can do longer. The longer any one clip goes, the better chance there is of something screwing up. Because if they let the thing keep going, it would just do something real unsettling. Now, is this me definitively saying that there will be literally 0 projects made with her? No. If anything gets made, it's going to be 1, maybe 2 novelty pieces, but that'll be it. And honestly, I wouldn't be shocked if she doesn't appear in movies. At least not anything from an actual established studio or known director. And it's worth noting, part of the reason I'm so confident about this is we've been here before. This is one of the benefits of being older than a fair bit of my audience. How many of you remember the movie Final Fantasy: The Spirits Within? Unless you were around at the time, probably not too many of you. But if you were there, this was a fully CGI movie done by Square Pictures, which is now defunct. It was a branch of Squaresoft at the time, now Square Enix, and it was intended to really be huge. I mean, the movie in and of itself, but also in the build-up to the release of this film, which bombed quite spectacularly, there was talk of, oh, this character, Aki Ross, oh, this isn't just going to be a character in this movie. We think we've made the first CGI actress. She'll appear in other things. She'll be in commercials and on television, and she'll appear in other movies as a completely different character, but with the same model because she's got to be that expressive. You know how many things Aki Ross was in? None. Anything and everything she was in was promotional material for Final Fantasy: The Spirits Within. And that was it. Now, as then, this is a tech gimmick that is a solution in search of a problem. The fact that part of the pitch from Particle 6 is that, oh, this will open up things to people regardless of their budget. Finding an unknown actor is not that expensive. It certainly is not going to be significantly less expensive than all the accommodations you would have to make to try and fit this thing into your movie. Because the only way you could ever really do it is to literally plan your entire shoot around the fact that you have to work with this thing. You could not film it like a standard movie because she just wouldn't integrate. For how long you'd have to wait for each and every take to know if it's any good. For the fact that any slight alteration to the lighting, to the sets, to the prop, if the AI hallucinates anything, any little thing that goes wrong, you have to re-render the entire thing. Yes, CGI models sometimes go weird. You can see some amazing bloopers of CGI models like freaking out and the hair goes crazy or whatever, but you just have to fix that one thing. You don't have to re-render the entire scene and shot. You just have to fix the model. That's not the case with Tilly Norwood. And also, it's really important to note that the idea that AI is cheaper than the stuff it's replacing is a lie. It just is. Because right now, because of who is funding and subsidizing the push for AI, and these are people with really deep pockets, they are offering it at a really low price or putting a lot of stuff available as things that can be used for free to consumers. It's not actually free to run. They're running this stuff at a loss. The expense that comes from the amount of energy that these things need in order to run is currently being absorbed by various things, be they grants, subsidies, or just a billionaire currently footing the bill. But none of this is actually profitable, even now, and it absolutely cannot be. So the idea that it's cheaper, that it would be cheaper to do this than hire an actress, like for whatever first project, first film they try and get for this actress, maybe it would be because they would forcibly bring the cost down to make it appealing. But if this tech sticks around, that price is going to skyrocket. It's going to have to. Otherwise, every single time they render footage with her, it's going to lose the money, which is what it currently is doing. All of this is speculative. All of this is a futures market. They are all betting that this stuff will be huge and indispensable. This is why it is being integrated into so many aspects. It's why freaking everything has an AI chatbot now. Because they are being subsidized by billionaires and other interests like that to ensure that it gets embedded in as many places as possible. And they're hoping that we will get so hooked on it that we won't ditch it the instant they start jacking the price up. It is effectively a clumsier gamble as the streaming services. Remember how cheap all those used to be? Well, once they got as many of us as were going to cut the cord for cable to do that and to start watching streaming, they start jacking the price up because this is how we're taking in entertainment and we'll pay a little more for it. You need to remember the actual cost of a thing isn't what it's worth. The cost of a thing is what they think you are willing to pay for it. And they know that right now people are basically not willing to pay for this stuff. It's a novelty, but they're trying to embed it and make it indispensable so that we can't just get rid of it when they start jacking the price up. So it's not cheaper, it's not more efficient, and as photoreal as they try and make it, it's still easier to just put an actress on a set and film a thing. Logistically, it is just simpler. So the only reason to use this actress is for the sake of novelty, or if you have such a raging hate boner for actors and the Hollywood system, which, look, plenty screwed up about the Hollywood system. But if you just have such a raging hate boner for actors and artists that you want to screw them over in any way you can, other than that, I cannot imagine why anybody with any actual experience in film or artistic intent behind anything they intend to do would ever work with this. It's a logistical nightmare. It would be slow. It would be imprecise. It would be also very morally questionable, because unless they put really tight restrictions on what you are and aren't allowed to do with this, one of the first things that would end up happening is, oh, let's have her do stuff that no actress would actually agree to let us do.
She'll do anything I say. I'm already in love.
I don't even want to list examples of what that might be.
Only bit it struggled with was consent in romantic scenes. We just ignored that.
If this even tries to get off the ground, it is going to faceplant and get real gross real quick. But I'll actually be kind of surprised if she even lands a supporting role in any major project. Nobody wants this. Audiences don't even want this. Of course, they're not even trying to pitch that audiences want it. It's about how agents and studios are excited. They're not trying to say that audiences want it. They know they don't. Like, not as more than a novelty. Why would you want that in a movie? Why did Final Fantasy Spirits Within fail? Well, failed for a number of reasons. But one of the reasons is like, oh, wow, it's so close to photorealistic. But it's also not quite there. Why aren't I just watching people? At a certain point, when you're trying to make photorealistic fake people, at a certain point, the amount of effort you have to put into that, it's just exponentially more than it would be to just get a human being. Now, if you're someone who does not know how to acquire or use the resources needed to make a film, then from a strict metric of how much effort do you have to put in, yes, this is easier. But if you actually want it to look as good as if you'd really filmed something and or integrate it with actual filmed footage, the hassle is huge just so that you can make it look like you just shot it traditionally. Because if anyone who actually cared about the quality of the end result was trying to use this, they would need it to look as good as the real thing. But it won't. Not consistently, not all the way through. This is only appealing to people who don't actually know how movies are made. And that's not who they're even bothering to market this at. This stuff's not going to work. And I do not ever expect to see her actually in a movie or a TV show. Maybe a commercial. Maybe. I think that most likely, if anything. I honestly don't even know who they think their market is. They're going in the news and they're talking about how this is going to be the next big thing. And they think that you're stupid. Well, I suppose maybe more accurately, they think studios are stupid, which, yeah, they are. I'm not sure they're this kind of stupid, though. We'll see. I have a very low opinion of studios, but at the same time, it's like, really? I could see, like, for a half second, they might find it appealing. Then the instant they tried to actually make it work, I think they'd realize, oh, this isn't worth it really quick. Tilly Norwood, AI actress. God, that's gross. What are your thoughts on any of this? Whatever they are, drop something down in the comments. Let's talk about it. Patreon pays the bills and enables me to do this as my living. Even if you can't help me out that way, like, share, subscribe. Those all help as well. But don't worry too much about it. What I really want you to remember is that you are beautiful. You are valid. And you are loved. You are the council. I'm just running the meetings. And until next time, this council is adjourned. Now to thank my highest supporting patrons. Robin Moore, Jared Boyce, Subin Lutfulla, Andicate 808, Mara G, Angry Casperl, Dave Hall, Movie Turtle, Oliver B, The Baba Duchess, Sean Miller, Welsh Wrestling Geeks, Melissa Pedersen, Mary Mello, Becky Sparks, Loki Eris, Tracy Scrabbit, Pau Baraba Joggle, and Sir Didymus is my favorite. I also want to give my thanks to all the supporters who didn't get named because you are all indeed very nifty people. You could be a nifty person too if you go support me on Patreon, and there's the clause. Ugh.